Peru. There are 32 million people in Peru. And like most Andean countries, there are three distinct zones in the country. There's the coastal strip. Take a look at this map. Can you see this is a German map? It is. At the same time, it serves my purposes. So excuse me for the German map. There are the Andes Mountains. And then there's the tropical interior, which in the case of Peru is the Amazon. Most Andean countries have a large remote tropical interior. Let's take a look at some of these countries. If you take a look at Venezuela, you can see that about 80% of the country is the tropical interior. In the case of Colombia, 65% of the country is tropical interior. In the case of Ecuador, this is also, by the way, in Ecuador where the oil is at, it's about 1/3 of the country is tropical interior. In the case of Peru, approximately half the country is this remote tropical interior. And in the case of Bolivia, about half the country is tropical lowlands interior. Let's go through Peru. Here's the coastal strip. Notice that it includes Lima. The coastal strip is mostly actually dry. This is because of a cold water current that causes a particular climatological phenomenon to occur. The further south you go in the coastal strip, the more arid it becomes. And in fact, as you cross the border into Chile, you enter into the driest place on earth. The southern part of Peru in the coastal strip is known for these very famous Indian ruins called the Nazca Lines, which can mostly only be seen from the sky, and they were designed on the desert floor more than 1,000 years ago by the indigenous people who lived there. Then as you move up into the Andes Mountains are mostly indigenous, and many of these people live in a high plains area. One of the high plains areas is called the Altiplano, which if you read the textbook, you know about. The indigenous population survived there. Remember, indigenous people had to be isolated in order to be able to make it once the Spanish arrived, because there were millions of them living in the high Andes. And when the Spanish came, the Spanish conquered them and basically left behind a skeleton crew to maintain Spanish order. And as a result of that, the indigenous people were able to make it. If you look at this picture, I told you one of the things that the indigenous people of the Andes domesticated was guinea pig, also known as cuy, in that part of the world. And you can see that those are cuy on that dish in front of that woman. And then there's the tropical interior, which is the Amazon. Amazonian Peru is a disconnected interior lowlands. That's the Amazon River right there in that picture. And notice there's no roads. The primary form of transportation there is on boats. This is the way people mostly move around. This is the largest city in the Peruvian Amazon, Iquitos. You can only reach Iquitos either by river or by flying. And if you're going by river, you come in actually from Brazil. Now, all of Iquitos does not look like this, but I want to show you this because there are actually slums in places like Iquitos that sit over the top of the water. If you take a close look at this picture, do you know what that is? How about that? Those are toilets. When I was in Iquitos, I saw children swimming in this water. I saw people bathing in this water. I saw people bringing up buckets of the water into their house. Keep that in mind. Tourism is critically important to Peru. It's based heavily on the Incan ruins like Machu Picchu, the very famous Machu Picchu, the Nazca Lines that I just showed you, and the indigenous culture that remains. It also is an important surfing place, believe it or not. So for those people who like to go on surfing safaris, Peru is usually on the list. And it has the largest tourism industry in South America. And in fact, tourism is so important, it's number 3 in terms of the economy in Peru, behind fishing and mining. We're going to take a look at the fishing because it's kind of interesting in a lot of ways. Lots of countries do mining. Not everybody does fishing. Peru is washed by a cold, nutrient-rich current that comes up from Antarctica. That cold, nutrient-rich current supports a large population of plankton. Plankton are minute. You know this word? minute. It's spelled like minute, but it means really small. Plankton sometimes are visible, but sometimes they're invisible. But they're minute plants and animals, and they make up the base of the aquatic food chain. When you have a large population of plankton, which relies on the cold nutrient-rich current, typically what will happen is small fish eat the plankton, medium-sized fish eat the small fish, bigger fish eat the medium-sized fish, and you have a fishing industry. And indeed, Peru has a significant fishing industry that includes things like tuna, toothfish, which is referred to in the United States as Chilean sea bass, but you can see why they don't want to call it toothfish because it doesn't sound very appealing, whereas Chilean sea bass does. Shrimp, anchovies, sardines. These are the primary things. Out of that, they make a variety of things. In addition to just selling the fish off, they make something called fish meal. Fish meal is dried, ground fish that's used for animal consumption. Like, for example, if you buy a can of cat food, this is not obviously the best part of the fish. Fish flour, which is dried salted fish that's used for human consumption. Many places do not have refrigeration the way Americans do, including many people in Peru. And if you're an individual fisher person and you go out and you have a great day and you bring in a lot of fish and you cannot eat all of this fish and you can't sell it all, they'll just gut the fish, they'll salt it, they'll dry it out, and then they can eat it 6 months later. And guano. Now, guano is the droppings from birds. In the United States, people usually refer to this as bat droppings, but it's anything that flies, whatever comes out of the back end of it, we refer to this as guano, which is high in nitrates. It's an excellent fertilizer. During the 19th century, guano was extremely important in Peru, but it still is very important. Even recently, there was an article in the Washington Post about the guano industry and how it still brings in lots of money for Peru, and it's just used for fertilizer. But there are problems in Peru. First of all, something called El Nino. El Nino is a warming of the water. So Peru is washed by a cold water current, but there are times when warm water washes back, it sort of sloshes back from the equatorial zone, flows over the top of the cold water current, and when it does this, this kills the plankton. And when it kills the plankton are the base of the aquatic food chain, and then that devastates the Peruvian fishing industry. So when that happens, which is with some regularity, perhaps every 10 years or so, an El Nino event will happen. Even the Inca described this event happening, so it goes back hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. The Peruvian fishing industry gets hammered as a result of that. So it will wreak havoc with the fishing industry. In addition to that, as I mentioned to you before, 90% of the world's cocaine comes from Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia. And the cocaine has fueled brutal conflicts in South America, Central America, and Mexico. At the same time, coca is widely available and legal. Coca as a plant, not coca as cocaine. If you look in that picture, you can see the woman with the baseball cap on, those bags of green leaves sitting in front of her. That's coca. Those are the coca leaves. The indigenous people of the Andes routinely chew this, like people in the United States, for example, chew tobacco. They chew this and then will spit it out. They've never seen cocaine in their lives, but the coca itself is widely available and legal in most Andean countries.